Good evening and welcome to this week's national news segment brought to you by L28 News. I'm your host, Jacobo Garrido, and tonight we're covering some of the most pressing stories shaping our nation. From a tragic aviation disaster, escalating trade tensions, and nationwide protests over immigration policies. Let's dive into this week's episode. All that and more when we return. Stay with us. L28 News starts now. We begin tonight with a tragic mid-air collision over Washington, D.C.'s Potomac River. An American Eagle regional jet and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter collided on Wednesday, January 29th, near Reagan National Airport, leaving no survivors. The American Eagle flight number 5342, operated by PSA Airlines, was carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members from Wichita, Kansas, when it collided with the Sikorsky H-60 helicopter from B Company, 12th Aviation Battalion out of Fort Belvoir. All 67 people aboard both aircraft were killed. Officials believe the helicopter was flying nearly 200 feet higher than it should have been. Emergency responders have recovered at least 55 bodies so far, with search and recovery efforts continuing in harsh conditions. Wreckage is scattered across the river, with debris washing up on the Virginia shoreline. The plane broke into multiple pieces in shallow water, while the helicopter remains largely intact but overturned. A live stream camera at the Kennedy Center captured the moment of impact at 8:47 p.m., showing a fireball over the river. The FAA and NTSB are investigating, with concerns raised about air traffic control staffing. At the time of the crash, only one controller was managing helicopters in some planes, a role normally handled by 2. Among the victims were top U.S. and Russian figure skaters returning from a national training camp, labor union members, and a young professional recently relocated to D.C. The helicopter's crew chief, Ryan O'Hara, was a husband and a father. President Trump called the incident a preventable tragedy and ordered new flight restrictions around Reagan National Airport. Investigators have recovered the plane's black boxes, which will be analyzed for critical flight data. This is the first major U.S. commercial crash in almost 16 years, and officials vow to determine what went wrong and prevent future disasters. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order imposing sweeping new tariffs, 25% on imports from Canada and Mexico, and 10% on Chinese goods. The move, set to take effect on Tuesday, February 4th, has already triggered swift retaliation. Canada announced immediate counter tariffs on over $155 billion worth of American goods, while Mexico pledged its response. China, meanwhile, vowed to challenge the tariffs at the World Trade Organization, calling them a violation of international trade rules. Trump, who had hinted at such measures before taking office, defended the tariffs in a Truth Social post, acknowledging potential economic pain, but insisting they were necessary to make America great again. The White House claims the move is aimed at stopping illegal immigration, cracking down on illicit drugs, and boosting U.S. manufacturing. However, business leaders warn of rising prices and economic instability. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce slammed the decision, calling it unprecedented and a threat to American consumers. Trade groups representing agriculture and the spirits industry fear a devastating cycle of retaliatory tariffs. Economists predict the U.S. could face inflation spikes, while Canada and Mexico's economies may shrink. With Trump hinting at further tariff expansions if nations retaliate, global markets are bracing for a fresh trade war. Whether the strategy strengthens U.S. industry or triggers economic turmoil remains to be seen. Mass protests have erupted across Southern California and beyond in response to President Donald Trump's sweeping immigration enforcement actions. Thousands of demonstrators flooded downtown Los Angeles on Sunday, blocking streets and shutting down the 101 freeway. While similar protests took place in Riverside, Moore Park, and San Diego, the outrage follows Trump's executive orders expanding immigration and customs enforcement agents' ICE operations and increasing arrests at schools, churches, and other sensitive locations. Protesters in Riverside carried signs reading "Fight Ignorance, Not Immigrants," while others in Los Angeles demanded an end to mass deportations. Beyond California, protesters spread to Dallas, Arkansas, Missouri, and Georgia, as reported by Newsweek. In Texas, thousands gathered in front of City Hall, chanting and blocking major streets. Since returning to office, Trump has taken an aggressive stance on immigration, boasting that ICE is now carrying out nearly 1,000 arrests daily. The administration argues that these actions uphold the rule of law, but critics say that they have sown fear into immigrant communities. Canada and Mexico have condemned the crackdown, further straining U.S. relations with its key trading partners. With tensions escalating and demonstrations continuing, immigration is set to remain one of the most divisive issues of Trump's second term. That wraps up tonight's national news segment here on L28 News. From a deadly mid-air collision, rising trade conflicts, and nationwide protests against new immigration policies, we'll continue to keep you updated on these stories and more as they unfold. I'm Jacobo Garrido, and on behalf of the entire L28 team, thank you for tuning in, stay safe, and good night. If you want to stay informed on the latest news impacting our country, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel by scanning the QR code below.